Hi, I'm Jilly and welcome to Mama Air. Today I'm making Korean steak bowls that are a really easy weeknight meal. I make them a lot and everybody in the family seems to really enjoy them. So it's just steak and veggies, a veggie slaw on top of rice, and it is delicious, a really quick sauce dressing that you can make with mayonnaise or yogurt to make it a little bit healthier if you've got some New Year's resolutions. And I hope that you enjoy it. If you like these cooking videos, please subscribe. I am happy to share lots more with you. First, we're gonna make the dressing. It's super simple. It's just 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. And then 1 tablespoon each of soy sauce, maple syrup, and sesame oil, toasted sesame oil. So this is the Momofuku soy sauce. I really like this. I think it's one of the better store-bought brands you can buy. So 1 tablespoon of that. And then this is some really good maple syrup I got from the farmer's market. Too good for the kids' pancakes in the morning, but perfect when small quantities are needed. And then a tablespoon of sesame oil. Make sure that you taste your sesame oil and a lot of your oils before you cook with them, because sometimes they go rancid if they've been sitting around for a while. Maybe you don't use them that much, or you keep them by the stove where they're getting some of that heat. So it's always a good idea to taste it first before you accidentally ruin your whole dish because the oil's gone bad. I'm just going to whisk those together and add the veggies on top. The prepackaged coleslaw is such a great hack because all the cutting is already done for you. So we're just gonna open up 1 package and put that in to our dressing. Now that there's air in there, I'm thinking I maybe should have used a bigger bowl, but I think we'll be just fine here. Then we're gonna add some scallions. And if you wanna elevate the look of your scallions when you cut them, rather than just chopping into little discs, you can cut them on a heavy bias. So first, just get rid of your little ends there. Don't try to do all of them at once. About 3 at a time is the amount that you want to do. And then you just angle your knife and make very thin cuts at an angle, as steep as you can make it. Let the knife do the work for you. So let your knife tip stay on the counter and then just glide. And if you need to readjust your grip on the scallions, do that. Make sure you claw grips. You're not going to cut off your fingers. And then you can just go a little bit into the dark green parts. You don't have to do all of them. And so now you have this beautiful looking, if you've got some that stick, you can pull them apart or get rid of them. Now you've got this beautiful looking scallion cut that will look so pro. Just add those on there, and I'll cut the other 3. Now we're just gonna cut some thin half moons out of the cucumber. So cut off the ends. This is an English cucumber, so it doesn't have all the seeds. If you have a regular cucumber, then you might wanna scoop out the seeds from the center. So there's 2 ways that you can do the cucumber into half moons. Definitely put them like on the flat side so that it's safer when you cut them. So if you feel like you can just do these thin knife cuts with the cucumber, then go ahead and use your knife. Okay. All right, so the other way that you can do a cucumber to make it look pro like your scallions is cut it down the middle so you're ready to make these half moons. And then you can use a mandolin. These are really cheap to get on Amazon. And you have to be careful. You don't want to cut off your fingers, but it will just easily do these little perfect, evenly sized half moons. It's not worth it to try to get the very end of the cucumber. Save your fingers and just use that as a healthy snack. But I mean, that's pretty consistent and beautiful. There's different settings on the mandolin too. So you have 3 different settings of thickness. So you can make it super thin or a little on the thicker size. I'm doing the medium size number 2. All right, stop myself there. Now a cup of roughly chopped cilantro. If you hate cilantro, I know some people do, then you can just leave this out altogether. Don't include the stems and don't chop it too finely. Just do kind of once in one direction, once in the other, and then that should be good to go. Smells so good. And then just add that. Okay, now just toss all of this together. You've already got the soy sauce in there, so you may not need any additional salt. Definitely want to taste it first. And it's going to break down a little bit as it sits while we're doing the rest of the dish. And if it feels like you don't have enough dressing after you've let it sit, then you can always just add a little bit more of each of those 4 ingredients. They're all very liquidy, so it'll be easy to incorporate more and still mix it up. All right, slaw's done. Now we're just gonna set that aside so we can do the steak. For this dish, I'm using a bavette steak from my favorite local butcher, Feather Blade, but you could also use a flank steak, or if you wanted to make it next level, you could use filet. I personally prefer the flavor of a bavette steak because it's got some more fat in it. So we're gonna cut it into cubes. That's gonna help it cook faster and also is gonna make nice little bite-sized pieces to put on top of the bowls. So the first step that you wanna do when you're cooking a steak is to bring it to room temperature. So that will ensure that the center of your meat isn't still raw while the outside is overcooked. It'll give you that really nice even color through the center of your steak. Second thing you wanna do is pat it dry. So when you pat it dry on both sides, then you are absorbing the moisture, and then that's gonna help you get a really good sear when you put it on the stove. I'm cutting these into about 3/4 to 1 inch cubes. 3/4 inch to 1 inch. This steak is really beautifully marbled on the inside. I think it's gonna be delicious. And then some pieces might be a little bit smaller than others, so just noting that as you cook so that you don't overcook the little pieces and taking those out first. Okay, we got steak cut up into cubes. So with steak, you wanna season it right before you cook it, because if you put the salt on too early, then that's gonna draw that moisture out of the steak that we just patted dry. So season it well. We're actually gonna toss this with a little bit of soy sauce when it's done cooking. So I'm not gonna go quite as heavy on the salt as I might normally. Pepper. All right, ready for the pan. All right, so I've got my well-loved stainless steel pan that I've had forever. I have been cooking pretty much with caraway recently, but I don't have one this particular size. And I wanna make sure I've got the right size pan for the amount of meat that I have, because you don't wanna overcrowd your pan. Then you're not gonna get that good sear. And I'm using vegetable oil, and a friend said that they use olive oil for cooking their steak, and I think that's a great instinct. I use olive oil for pretty much everything because it's healthier, but in this case you want to use vegetable oil because it has a higher smoke point. So that way your oil is not going to burn when your pan is hot enough to cook the steak, and you really want a screaming hot pan for cooking steak to get that delicious sear. I know some of you might be looking at this video and saying like, what, you're using seed oil? And a lot of people are opposed to it now, but I think that that's actually kind of a gimmicky thing. There's really no really great evidence that says that seed oils are bad. And it's not like you're, you know, I don't know, drinking the stuff. So I've got my pan really hot. Feel free to adjust your heat. Sometimes recipes say like, you know, heat your stove to medium high. That doesn't mean you have to keep it there. So you can adjust it as you go so you're not burning anything. So my pan's super hot. I'm gonna add my oil, and you'll see when I add it, it should start to glisten pretty quickly. And that shininess means that it is ready to go. And then I'm going to put my steak on and listen for the sizzle. So that's the sound you want to hear. You don't want to hear a popping sound. That means it's too hot. And you don't want to hear nothing, because that means that it's not going to cook and give you that great sear. So as you can see, I have these little stragglers over here, and I really wanted to put them in the pan, but the cardinal rule of cooking is that you don't want to overcrowd your pan. If you overcrowd your pan, you're not gonna get a good caramelization because it's gonna steam instead of sear. So I'm gonna keep these here. I'm still gonna cook them, but I'm going to wait until these cook a little bit. I'll flip them, and then as I take some of the tinier pieces out, then I'll add these in. Another tip is don't mess with your steak for a couple of minutes. So really let it get that good sear on the bottom and unstick from the pan all on its own before you turn it over. So just let it do its thing. Don't be in a hurry. Give it a couple minutes. And then once you get that really great caramelization and it comes off the pan easily, that's when you flip it. Look at that sear. Oops. That is a good sear. So and that only comes with a screaming hot pan. So now that I've got some of these pieces, I'm gonna flip them over. They don't need too much more time on the other side. And you'll also notice too that one part of your pan may be a little bit hotter than the other. So take that into account. I'm gonna turn down my heat because I see that it's getting a little bit hot now and smoking. I didn't turn the fan on because we were filming, but that was probably not the best idea when it came to the smoke alarm. If you want to know how it should feel for like a medium rare steak, then it's kind of the same pressure as when you press down on your thumb right here. So if it goes in too much and doesn't bounce back very well, then it still needs a little bit more time, but you don't want it to feel hard as a rock either. So don't waste all that flavor on the bottom of the pan. While this one's finishing cooking, I'm just gonna deglaze it. Be careful because hot water and oil. But once you get it in there, you're just gonna get all those yummy bits off the bottom. And we'll just throw that over our cooked steak as a little bit of extra flavor when it's reduced down. This is also a really good tip just for cleaning your pan. do it when it's hot. So if you take your pan right from the stove over to the sink and turn the water on, say you have something that you don't care about saving the little bits with, then that will help you clean it so much easier if you have a hot pan with water going right into it. Delicious and syrupy. I'm just gonna pour that over the top. I've got my steak right out of the pan. It smells so good, it looks so good. I'm just gonna give a touch of soy sauce as it rests. So another tip when you're cooking steak, you wanna make sure that you give it time to rest before you go ahead and cook and cut into it, because it's just gonna make it taste so much better when everything can just kind of settle. Not sure if you've seen this before, but this is black rice, and it's a lot healthier than white rice. It has a lot of antioxidants and fiber and health benefits to it. You might want to try it. If you haven't, you can get it in any supermarket. So just rinsing it off. And then into the pot, or in the water. Just gonna bring that to a boil, and then once it's boiling, I'll reduce it to a simmer, cover it up. I like this Le Creuset top because it's really heavy and tight fitting, and it's gonna take about 35 minutes, and then we'll let it sit off the heat for 10 minutes, fluff with a fork, and it'll be ready to go. So now we're gonna make the secret sauce, which is also what makes it a Korean steak bowl. We're using gochujang, which is a Korean chili paste, and this sauce is so easy. It's just equal parts gochujang and mayonnaise. And I like homemade mayonnaise because it doesn't have any of the preservatives or stabilizers in it, but you can, of course, just buy store-bought, and that makes it easier. And if you want to make it lighter, you can use yogurt as well and mix that with the gochujang. It's so easy to make that you could even make one healthier sauce and one not so healthy sauce and serve them together so that everybody can eat to their tastes and their health goals. If you're doing homemade mayonnaise, it's certainly helpful to have a piece of equipment. I had been using a mini food processor, but now I'm using my Thermomix to make it. It is so easy. When you do it by hand, it requires a bit of effort and a little bit more finesse, but it turned out just perfectly in there. So it kind of depends on how much you want for your family, but this sauce is really pretty good. And then you may just want to do the gochujang to taste because it is spicy. So for your kids, you might want to sub with ketchup. And if you use too much of the gochujang, it may be not so much to your liking. I'm going to start with a couple of tablespoons. If you do equal parts, it definitely gives it a lot more of a kick, but it comes together so quickly. And then you can just kind of scoop this right over the top of your bowls, and it gives it that little extra something. All right, so let's give it a little taste. Delicious. We are ready to assemble. The rice finished cooking, and I just turned off the heat, let it rest for about 10 minutes, and now I'm gonna fluff it up and top it with all of our delicious toppings. First, we're gonna assemble a kid's plate in case they don't want everything together. So just a little bit of rice on the side. Good way to expose them to a new ingredient, but something that they probably already like. And give them a couple little bits of steak, however much you think they'll eat. And maybe even a little bit of broccoli. We'll see. But there's a deconstructed version, so kid-friendly. Now we'll plate up the full version all together. So some of the black rice on the bottom, a little bit of slaw on the side, And of course you can, depending on who in the family likes vegetables more, you can put more or less of those. Some steak, which looks amazing. And I happen to have some broccoli that I had last night for dinner in the fridge, so make it just like even a little bit healthier by adding that. And some delicious microgreens from Chef Leela at the farmer's market. And then to top it all off, some of that gochujang paste. So you can just kind of, oh, got my microgreens stuck there. Just kind of dollop that on to taste. All right, so now we have the bowl and it is all done. And let's give it a try. Oh, one finishing touch, totally optional, but a little bit of toasted sesame seeds, just very lightly toasted to sprinkle on top and give it that pretty look. And there you have a super healthy, easy weeknight meal. Okay, this is like a really massive bite, so I'm gonna cut it up. I guess my bite-sized pieces weren't too bite-sized. Oh, that looks like it's cooked just perfectly on the inside. Perfect medium, medium rare, that's the way I like it. It's so good. That easy sauce really just takes it to another level, gives that little bit of sin in what's an otherwise super healthy dish. If you enjoyed this recipe, then please like, subscribe, follow. I would love to share more with you and keep you in the loop.